Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Middays with Trey, your weekly afternoon break. I'm your host, Trey. Let's get right into the show. Today's guest has worked at colleges and universities across the country. Most recently, she was the Assistant Vice President for Student Engagement at the University of Houston-Clear Lake, and now is the Vice President for Student Affairs right here at CCU. Let's give it up for Dr. Yvonne Hernandez Friedman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm happy to be here.
Great. So firstly, welcome to CCU. How have you been settling in?
It's been great. I've really been enjoying my time here and getting to know students. I have a goal of meeting 10,000 students. So I always say, invite me to all of the campus engagement and programs and meetings. And I'm always up for meeting new students. So I'm really excited to be here.
Right. How many students would you say you've met so far?
I would say I've probably met a couple hundred already.
Okay. So well,
but I've only been here for about 4 or 5 weeks. And We've only been in school that long. So I still got some ways to go, but hopefully I'll get some more invites and I'll be able to come out to different events.
Right. So if you could tell the audience a little bit about yourself, we said your background in your intro, but if you could just tell, where you grew up and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I was born in a border town called Nogales in Arizona.
Oh, I actually went there a couple summers ago with my grandfather.
Did you really?
He lives in Goodyear, and he passed through Tombstone, and he went to Nogales. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. So you know about Nogales. It's a small city, but I was born there and then moved to Phoenix when I was about 5 years old. And so I grew up in Phoenix and went to Arizona State University. I did my bachelor's and master's work there, and I worked there for a brief time. And then I went to San Diego, and I thought, I'm just going to go for a year and work at San Diego State, and ended up staying there for 20 years. So needless to say, I enjoyed San Diego and Southern California a lot. And then after that, moved to Houston. It was a big move for us. My husband's also from Southern California, so he had never he had lived in D.C. for a little while, but other than that, had been in San Diego even longer than I. So it was our first big move, and we were there for about 18 months, and then here we are. We're in South Carolina.
Right here in CCU. So, according to your bio, I was looking through it, and it said you were actually trained but you were trained for life and career coaching. How have you seen maybe some of those skills that can transfer to the collegiate world? Yeah.
So, during COVID, I got certified as a life and career coach. And how that translates to my work is a lot of times with students, I'm having these coaching conversations. It's usually just on the fly or just really impromptu conversations about, what are you up to? What's your major? What are you planning on doing with that? And it really lends itself to being able to have just an easy conversation with somebody and to try to get somebody to think outside of the box. And really that's the point of coaching, right? Is that you help people to think outside the box and think more broadly about their life and their skill set and how it can apply to anything, right? And to just think outside of yourself and think, past your own insecurities, that you can do anything.
Right. So I'm sure you were asked this question in probably all your interviews, but what attracted you to Coastal Carolina University?
It's a wonderful question. I've been asked it a lot. And what I really enjoy about CCU is that there's a full university experience here. There's athletics, there's activities, there's student involvement, there are amazing opportunities like this with a wonderful sound studio, but it's in a smaller package, right? You don't have this huge campus of 30,000 students. It's 10,000 students, and it's manageable. And for me personally, it's kind of my sweet spot. I went from a campus that had 25,000 students to a campus that had 6,000 students to now 10. And so it is really right in the middle, and it's my sweet spot. So I'm really enjoying CCU, and what's great is that I can help to make change and actually see that. And not just be a cog in a machine where the machine's always just running. And as a new person in a really large institution, there's some change you can make, but really the machine has always been there. It's been moving, and you're just kind of a part that can make some change. But here, I feel like you can actually make change and see it.
Right.
And that's what's exciting.
That's cool. Okay. So that brings us to the next question. What role do you think diversity, equity, inclusion plays at a college, at coastal size, and in a position like yours?
I mean, it plays a significant role.
Yeah.
When I look at diversity, equity, inclusion from a student involvement lens, which is really the crux of what I do, it's really looking at what are those activities and interests of students that are all inclusive, and that we're not just catering to one particular population, that we're looking at what all the different populations want, from graduate students like yourself to undergraduate students, student parents, people that are coming back to school, veteran students, and just really trying to look at the multitude of types of students and backgrounds and where they're coming from. And I think it plays just such a huge role in that. Everything from, student health to student activities, fraternity and sorority involvement, whatever it is. There's really diversity, equity, and inclusion has a place everywhere.
Right. And so one of those groups that you mentioned is actually the first generation college students, and that and we have a lot of those in the Edwards College specifically. And I know reading your bio that you were actually a first generation college student. And so just talking to them out there, how do you think that's affected your college and your career path so far?
Right. Absolutely. Well, as a first generation college student, I mean, I just remember my family and I just fumbling through the entire college process, everything from our application to financial aid, and literally even showing up to campus and not realizing that we needed to have filed our housing application 6 months prior. We just literally thought we were going to show up and say, oh, I want to live in that dorm. And it was just going to be, that's just where I was going to live. Just not even really knowing what to expect. I started college in the early 90s, and there were computers, but I didn't have, in the area where I grew up, that I didn't really have access to a lot. So I remember going to college with a typewriter, like a word processor, and not really knowing there were even computer labs. And so I was typing my papers on a typewriter and just not even really having the social capital to know all the things I needed to know about being a college student. And so my freshman year, I ended up not doing so great. I got academically disqualified from my first university that I attended, and really had to take stock and find those mentors and people who were going to help me. Because, I think the bachelor's degree is probably one of the hardest to get, because there's a lot of endurance that comes with that. And I can honestly say from my experience, it was really touch and go for a while. And I think that's the case for a lot of first generation students, where you're just, you kind of feel like you're fumbling around through an experience. And my hope in that, coming into this field of work, that if I can help other first gen students to maybe not have to fumble quite as much as I did, that I can make a positive impact for another student. Right. Yeah.
So I've been doing a campaign on social media, being Hispanic Heritage Month, that I've been interviewing students who identify as Hispanic, and they said the similar things to you. A lot of them are first generation college students and felt like they didn't have either the resources or they didn't know the know-all to find these resources, to help them with the applications, the housing or whatnot. So maybe if you have any tips, maybe, I know you probably haven't done your research in the Edwards College as far as that, but like, what are some things that colleges in general could do to help these first generation students, maybe not just of Hispanic descent, but of any descent, kind of find these resources in, other ways?
Right. Well, I'm a huge proponent of, in our field, we call it wraparound services. So what that means is really looking at a population and seeing, why are we not retaining this student? Maybe we get them here, but why are we not retaining them? Or we've almost got them here, but then we lose them somewhere between their putting in an application and actually showing up for classes. And so what the wraparound service is more of that. You know, for instance, at one of my institutions at San Diego State, we did a really targeted recruitment near the U.S.-Mexico border. It was a community called San Isidro. And so we would go down to that community and actually do orientation there. And so then, and it was always at night, so that way any of our families who maybe had hourly positions or they can't take off work, they could come, and it's in the evening, and it's a 2-hour thing. And it was a family affair because it wasn't just parents, it was the little brother or sister, maybe nanas at home. So you have these multi-generational homes, and that wraparound service is really providing those opportunities for orientation that are outside of the box and not what we're always replicating, doing things in the evening, doing things on the weekend, and then really continuously checking in with that student. How are you doing? What kind of coaching do you need? And I think CCU does a great job with the academic coaching. And I think if we can do some more targeted efforts towards particular populations and pulling those students together to create that community, I think then we can really elevate that student experience and help the first generation student or the Latino student, Latinx student, you know, Black student, Black men, whatever that is. So that's where we can create something different.
Right, I agree. So final question, what do you hope to bring to the Coastal community, you know, for your first year or two here at Coastal?
Probably the biggest thing is to, you know, Coastal has done a lot to really elevate the academic experience on our campus. And what I hope to do is to elevate the student engagement. We do some excellent student engagement here, and I would like to elevate the student experience and to get it into par with what the academic side of the house has been doing. And so to really, you know, whether it's creating more wraparound services for particular populations, being more inclusive of our student engagement, interactions, and involvement opportunities, and even just bringing in more late night events, knowing that our students, we have lots of students here on campus, and life doesn't stop at 5 p.m. And having more things going on in the evenings. So really just elevating that student experience, continuing the wonderful work we've done, and hopefully even bringing in different populations into CCU, whether it's students from South Carolina, students from the local community, and Latino students, or whatever that is. And so I'm excited for the new strategic plan that our university is finishing up, and we will, as student affairs, get right in alignment with that. So it's very exciting.
That's great. Yeah, during my undergrad here at Coastal, my freshman year, I wasn't too involved in anything. I really kind of stayed within my dorm bubble almost. And once that popped, you know, once friends started going elsewhere, you know, once you know, friendships broke, you know, as they do, I was like, I should probably get involved in something because I don't have any more friends in my circle. But then I started getting involved with things like AIM and CAB, you know, the IS office and all those things in the student affairs and student life programs that they offer. And it was such a great opportunity. It brought me so many different doors opening, and it's such a great place to be. So any students, I recommend you to get involved anywhere you are, Edwards College, Gupta College, Spadoni, anywhere you are, even if it's not at Coastal, get involved. I'm sure you can attest to some of that. But
it creates an enriching experience for your time here.
It does. But thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yep. It's that time again, time for Hat of the Week. For this week, it's Throwback Week. So I brought out the red Disney button hat. There we go. As you can see, this hat is red and it has a bunch of Disney buttons on it. This hat is actually one of the first hats I have in my collection. This is from when I was in 5th grade. So it's probably, I don't know how old you are in 5th grade, like 10 or something like that. But it has a bunch of buttons on it. If y'all don't know what Captain EO is, this used to be my favorite show after I saw it in Disney World. It used to be in Epcot, but it's not there anymore because they took it down. I think they took it down a little bit after Michael Jackson passed away. But that used to be my favorite thing. If you have the chance, look it up. They have a song called "Can You Feel It" by the Jackson 5. It's a great movie experience. Very old, very low quality, but it was a great experience in the 5D theater. I'm at Disney. But yeah, this is from when I was in 5th grade, and I thought it was really cool. I found it when I was in Charleston a couple weeks ago. And so here it is, 5th grade hat. It's time for your weekly update. First, on Friday, October 14th, we at the Edwards College invite you to our homecoming open house. Join us for a day full of performances, lectures, demonstrations, discussions, and exhibits. The day will conclude with the 3rd Music on the Lawn concert of the semester. This will be an all-day event in the Edwards College in Britton Hall. Next, starting Monday, October 17th and lasting through November 18th, artwork from award-winning artist Eloisa Guanlao will be shown in the Rebecca Randall Bryant Art Gallery. Her work experiments with spatial structures combined with the photographic energy that become performance space for the public. On Tuesday, October 18th, starting at 7 p.m., the music department presents Swords to Plowshares, Toward Peace in a Troubled World, a concert featuring the CCU Concert Choir, Chamber Choir, and selected soloists. On Wednesday, October 19th, starting at 4 p.m., the History Department continues its Peace and Conflict lecture and film series with Conflict, Culture, and Spirituality in 17th Century New France. Finally, also on Wednesday, October 19th, starting at 7:30 p.m., the Department of Music presents their Wind Ensemble concert. A lot of good events are coming up this week, but as always, we didn't have time to touch on them all, so make sure you stay up to date and follow all Edwards College social media pages. Alright, that wraps up this week's episode of Midday with Trey. I hope you enjoyed it and make sure you tune in next week, same time, same place. Bye!